soon as she walked in, it was like a light bulb went off and the sun was on her.
Shock rocked Hollywood the moment Richard Gere first slid across the screen. He was danger wrapped in charm, a smirk that printed money, a gaze that melted steel. In Pretty Woman, he spun a simple love story into gold. In American Gigolo, he bared body and soul, proving desire could be whispered yet still roar. For 20 blazing years, Gere did not just act. He defined what it meant to be a leading man. Magazine covers crowned him king of cool, and ticket lines curled around city blocks. Then, without warning, the bright lights faded. No farewell tour, no scandal, no tragic fall. One quiet morning, fans realized their legend had stepped into the night. The clues were shocking. Gere dismantled a real estate kingdom that stretched from a rolling estate in Bedford to a grand Connecticut manor to a sleek Manhattan loft. Forest paths, wine vaults dug under stone, a stable filled with horses, gardens laid out like living art. One by one, the deeds changed hands, while reporters begged for answers that never came. No mega yacht, no flashy tech launch, no Malibu rebirth. Gere simply vanished. Where did he go? What treasure did he carry? And why did he leave a stage still begging for an encore? To untangle this riddle, we rewind to a sleepy town near Syracuse. Richard Tiffany Gere arrived on August 31st, 1949, in a modest house. His father sold insurance. His mother ruled the kitchen with gentle strength. Money was thin, yet the music of life played loud. Hymns at church, trumpet scales at dawn, debates that stretched deep into the night. Richard stood apart even on the playground. He practiced trumpet until his lips cracked and flew across gymnastics rings with fearless speed. Classmates found him quiet, yet somehow always at the center of every daring plan. In 1967, the University of Massachusetts Amherst offered him a scholarship and a ticket to bigger dreams. He chose philosophy and theater, a daring blend of mind and motion. He devoured Plato in the afternoon, then crawled through stage fog at night, testing how thought and emotion collide. 2 years later, he stared at his unfinished degree and felt no regret walking away. Life, not paperwork, would be his mentor. Seattle welcomed him first. A basement stage, 20 mismatched chairs, the smell of sawdust and wet paint. He carried props, scrubbed floors, and soaked up every whisper craft. New York followed, a storm of auditions, rejection slips, and rare callbacks that made hope soar. He kept journals packed with questions about love and fear, certain that a single honest moment on stage could outshine any special effect. Breakthrough struck in 1975 during a raw prison drama named Killer's Head. Bound and blindfolded, Gere spoke to the darkness, letting voice and breath paint terror and regret. Critics gasped. The audience leaned forward as if yanked by invisible threads. That night proved muscles, and good looks were only surface glitter. The true spark lived deeper, where conviction burns hot and silent. From that stage, he marched ahead, still unknown to millions, yet quietly unstoppable. He trusted patience, craft, and the magnetic pull of stories told with truth. The next door would open soon, and when it swung wide, he would stride through ready to shake the world. The next leap arrived when John Travolta rejected a daring role, and the script landed in Gere's waiting hands. The year was 1980, and the movie was American Gigolo. From a first frame, he walked bare and bold through neon streets, turning quiet confidence into raw magnetism. Overnight, the rising star became an icon. Success poured in like a flash flood. Looking for Mr. Goodbar, Days of Heaven, and Yanks kept critics buzzing. Yet Gigolo blew every door off its hinges. Studios begged for more, and Gere answered with an officer and a gentleman 2 years later. What seemed like a simple romance in uniform exploded into a global hit worth almost $130 million. Awards piled high and posters of him in dress whites covered teenage walls. Gere refused to coast on a clean image. He dived into Bent, a fearless play that faced a horror inflicted on gay prisoners under the Nazi regime. Critics hailed the choice as brave and brilliant. Gere proved he was chasing meaning, not applause. The 90s found him drawn to characters on the edge. In Internal Affairs, he played a crooked cop who smiled while twisting the knife. In Primal Fear, he battled a fragile young killer and helped catapult Edward Norton toward stardom. Action fans cheered when Gere faced Bruce Willis in Jackal, swapping bullets and accents with equal fire. Then destiny delivered Pretty Woman. Gere almost passed on it, calling the script too sweet and risky. One meeting with Julia Roberts changed everything. Their lightning chemistry lit up the screen, and the film rocketed to $463 million on a tiny budget. Crowds loved the fairy tale. Yet beneath the charm, Gere layered quiet longing that made every look feel real. Through the decade, he balanced blockbusters with thoughtful dramas like Summersby, Runaway Bride, First Night, and Red Corner. Paychecks climbed from $2 million to $13 million, yet Gere never treated money as a prize. The real thrill was finding roles that asked hard questions about power and desire. The early 2000s crowned his craft when he stepped into sharp shoes as lawyer Billy Flynn in Chicago. Dark songs, dazzling footwork. Gere tapping out truth in a silver pinstripe suit. He won a Golden Globe and showed doubters that talent, not gossip, keeps a career alive. Still, the Academy Awards remained silent, a snub that puzzled fans and critics alike. 50 films later, Gere had nothing left to prove. Box office totals soared past hundreds of millions, yet he held no golden statue. Maybe that omission whispered that true value lives beyond trophies. At the peak of earnings, he sat on a fortune of $120 million, but his spending habits shocked the town. While peers flashed megayachts and private jets, Gere invested in peace. He bought a worn country inn in Bedford, New York, and transformed it into the Bedford Post Inn, a gentle 8-room hideaway tucked among oaks. Guests rise with sunrise yoga, sip herbal tea, and dine on organic harvest from nearby farms. No bar-pumping dance beats, no velvet rope, only hush of wind through leaves and the steady rhythm of mindful breath. This was no branding stunt. It was a philosophy built with brick and wood. Gere was crafting a life that matched the ideals he pondered as a boy with a trumpet. The inn spoke of rest over rush, connection over conquest, presence over fame. And just like that, he stepped away from red carpet flashbulbs, choosing instead the quiet crackle of a fireplace and the calm company of his own thoughts. Hollywood kept calling, yet Gere found his power in stillness. The empire he kept was not made of steel towers or streaming rights. It was woven from silence, trees, and the steady promise that a heart in balance shines brighter than any marquee. Feel the sharp Tuscan wind whipping through silent vines as afternoon sun turns the hills to gold while glasses ring like tiny bells. That was the day Richard Gere wandered for hours with vintner Tonio de Sanfilippo and poured his quiet soul into Brunello di Montalcino, released under Bedford Post name. Every ruby bottle carries bold tannin, warm cherry, and the sigh of a man who traded applause for stillness. Friends swear they taste the hush of twilight in every pour. Gere does not collect these bottles to show off a label. He shares them with farmhands and monks during long, slow meals where talk drifts softer than the wine itself. He says vines prove that patience always wins because great flavor needs years, not hurry. "I can't imagine a meal without wine," he once laughed, treating each sip like a slow drumbeat guiding thought and breath. Now, in his 70s, he rejects packed calendars. He strolls garden paths, feeds koi by hand, builds twig forts with his little boys, greets dawn with meditation, and joins his wife to plant trees in dusty schoolyards. His day looks open, yet it is never empty. This calm stunned Hollywood because he embraced it while studio chiefs waved blank checks and begged for one more hit. The hush around him shouts a rare truth. Real power appears when a millionaire decides a chase is done and peace is the prize. Even veteran agents stopped to ask what they were truly selling. For more than 30 years, Gere treated real estate like a living diary. Each acre spoke about balance, not bragging rights. He studied the lessons those walls could teach, then moved on when a new chapter called. In 1987, paparazzi followed every move. Yet he slipped north to Pound Ridge and paid $1.5 million for woods, ponds, and quiet. Year after year, he stitched nearby parcels into a 50-acre hideaway with 9 fireplaces, cedar barns, twisting horse trails, and a meadow made for midnight stargazing. Winter storms would cut the power, and he loved the darkness that followed. He lit every hearth, cooked soup over open flame, and read Buddhist poetry while snow piled high beyond the windows. In 2022, the retreat changed hands for $28 million without a single farewell photo. Months later, he bought a storage spread in New Canaan, once alive with the songs of Paul Simon and Edie Brickell. 31 rolling acres held a 6-bedroom, 11-bath stone manor, a guest cottage wrapped in wisteria, waterfalls sliding over mossy rock, and a spring-fed pond where fireflies painted the dusk. Gere sketched a living classroom for his kids. Plans promised mushroom logs, buzzing hives, dairy goats, and solar rows that would turn sunlight into supper. But 2 quick years passed. Then the heavy gate swung open again. He sold the land for $10.75 million, nearly what he paid, canceled every blueprint, and slipped away before neighbors heard the moving trucks. No lawsuit, no meltdown, no press release. Only one whispered fact remained. He left the United States. His next chapter opened under the hot Spanish sun, and it stunned every headline writer. Instead of London lights or Riviera parties, Richard Gere chose Alcorcon, a quiet suburb north of Madrid, where the loudest crowd is a chorus of olive trees. He spent roughly 11 million euros on a stone villa hidden behind cypress walls. The land runs for 34 acres with granite wine cellar, gardens that roll like green sea, and stables where his young sons can ride all day without touching a fence. No marble fountain splashing at midnight, no engines roaring at dawn, only wind, birds, and the calm hum of Spanish voices. "My wife gave me 6 years to live in my world," he told Vanity Fair Spain. "Now it is my turn to live in hers." That single promise pulled him over the ocean. He arrived in his 70s, yet felt brand new as he met local farmers and helped his kids plant almond trees in stony ground. Back in the United States, he left only light footprints for quick visits. He once joked these stray addresses feel like spare jackets, ready for a chilly night, yet never weighing him down. A snug Gramercy Park flat bought in 2016 on Jimmy Fallon's advice still waits behind iron gates. A Southampton beach house first purchased for $6.5 million, later sold for $36 million. Proof he knows when to let waves go. An older loft he treasured for 2 decades now rents for $20,000 a month, a memory politely paying its own bills. His garage tells the same story. Golden supercars do not glitter there. Instead, he keeps classics that age with grace. A Jaguar E-Type once hailed by Enzo Ferrari as the most beautiful car ever built. A Mercedes-Benz R107 from the 1970s. All clean lines and quiet strength. A 2015 Jaguar XK with richwood trim and a deep growl. A rare 2004 Lotus Esprit crouching low, like a coiled cat. Every model earned road dust, never just magazine glare. When war exploded in Ukraine, he rolled his 1999 Jaguar XK8 onto an auction block and raised $31,000 for relief. No cameras, no hashtags, just one silent drive that turned steel into hope. Yet the richest treasure he guards cannot be parked, sold, or copied. He pours voice and time into causes that defend culture and dignity. He chairs the International Campaign for Tibet, lifts up Tibet House US, and supports the GE Foundation working for better health and schooling. China banned his movies. Big studios froze him out. Yet he never bent. He often travels without aids, choosing night trains over private jets because the money saved and vaccinate an entire village. He also backs Survival International, fights for tribal lands, and once built HIV/AIDS clinics in India, where mothers had nowhere else to turn. Step into his study, and you will not see movie posters. You'll find Tibetan paintings, weathered statues, and scrolls inked by monks long ago. Their market price barely matters, but their story grows richer each time he lights a candle beneath them. Every plot he bought, every car he loved, and every charity he shields prove one thing. Richard Gere never rejected wealth. He only chose to be rich in a way Hollywood can never stage. Feel that seismic shift in Hollywood? It didn't come from box offices or a tabloid scandal, but from a bloom of garden flowers and a little hand in Madrid. At an age when stars hide behind velvet ropes, Richard Gere is on his knees arranging blooms with his 4-year-old son in a sunlit courtyard. Imagine the shock of seeing the once cold, seductive screen icon transformed by giggles and petals. His secret? Alejandra Silva, a Spanish activist born amid Real Madrid's power and politics, who chose humane work over headlines. They wed simply in New York in 2018, 2 worlds colliding without a red carpet flourish. A year later, at 70, Gere held baby Alexander in his arms. 12 months on came a second son whose name he keeps private, a late father, yet he arrived on time for every laugh, every meal, every bedtime story. Happy wife, happy life, he jokes, but this is no quip. It's a compass. He sold the very mansion he'd loved for 35 years, learned Spanish, reset his clock, and redefined success. In 2024, he moved his brood full-time to Alcorcon, north of Madrid, planting roots in a historic villa tucked beneath cypress and sunshine. My wife gave me 6 years to live in my world, he told Vanity Fair Spain. Now I live in hers. Gere doesn't idle in luxury. He builds hope. Alongside Alejandra, he backs Hogarsi, a nonprofit vowing to end Spanish homelessness within 5 years. He invests quietly in Sierra Mar's coastal renewal in Mexico. No speeches, just action that outlasts applause. At Christmas 2024, 35 relatives crowded their Alcorcon home after Alejandra's grandmother passed. It was Gere who reminded his wife to carry on as the family's heartbeat, hosting 3 generations at one table. Richard Gere's greatest role isn't on screen, but in daily life. He has 3 sons born in 3 chapters of his story. Homer, born 2000 with former wife Carrie Lowell, stayed close through every twist of divorce and renewal. Alexander, born 2019, and his baby brother 2020 filled Gaia's days with toy cars, bedtime tales, and backyard adventures. Zen practice shaped him long before Hollywood's glare. Since his 20s, he studied under Zen master Kyozen Jiu Sasaki, trekked to Nepal to sit with Tibetan monks, and received initiation from the Dalai Lama. That discipline didn't lock him in a cave. It sent him out with calm resolve. He lives by one creed. Stop treating yourself like an afterthought. Eat delicious food. Walk in the sunshine. Jump in the ocean. Be silly. Be kind. Be weird. There's no time for anything else. For 20 years, Gere sidestepped blockbuster paychecks and formula scripts. He declined roles that sexualized middle-aged men, instead choosing the quiet tension of films like Arbitrage, Time Out of Mind, and The Benefactor. In real life, he moves slowly, eats organic, tends his vegetable patch, pours his own wine, and never checks his phone mid-conversation. He believes stillness is the greatest power we have. That's why the Bedford Post, in his passion project in Bedford, New York, has only 8 rooms, no bar, no EDM, no velvet rope. Guests rise for sunrise yoga, sip handcrafted wine, and hear only their own breath mingling with birdsong. From Italy, he crafted a special Brunello di Montalcino under the Bedford Post label, served at private charity dinners. Not for mass sale, but for sharing moments that bend time itself. He owns no superyacht, no private jet, no fashion line. What he keeps instead is a clear mind, a generous heart, and choices that don't need explaining. In an age when fame is mistaken for presence, Richard Gere chose to disappear so he could finally be seen as a real human being.